Hi, welcome to week 3. Let's talk a little bit about last week's qualitative research assignment. I want to share the themes that came back from your interviews, and that process is called a thematic analysis. That's when all the interviews are looked at, all the themes are looked at, and you start the themes that are used most often. There are different ways to do a thematic analysis, but that's how it comes together. That's the process. So, certain themes are mentioned. I will be sharing all of the themes through your email, but I wanted to share the number 1 response thus far. On question number 2, what do you see as an advantage of having your BSN? The most frequent answer, it opens doors to more opportunities. That shouldn't surprise you. That's why you're in the program. Now, let's compare quantitative and qualitative. As you know, quantitative is reported in numbers and percentages and generally involves a much larger study using questionnaires with more than, less than, hardly, ever. That's called a Likert scale, Likert, and every one of you have completed. There are also other ways to measure. Another one would be observation. You know, when the infection control nurse comes in and observes hand washing to report in numbers or percentages. A qualitative study, which is what you did this last week, generally involves a much smaller study. Why? Well, let's think about that. Can you imagine having to type up every word of what maybe 200 or more people said? Impossible. Horrible even, right? So, how do you know if you've interviewed enough people with qualitative to know that you've thoroughly researched the information? It's called data saturation. Data is information, and you know what saturation means. So, it's when you start hearing the same thing over and over. You begin hearing the familiarity and you know you have reached data saturation. So, your assignments for this week. Newsworthy sharing and great discussions, of course. This week you will be exploring quantitative research. That's research that is explored and explained in numbers and percentages. So, you will need to review chapters 2 and 5, PowerPoints found under course resources. You'll also be using a checklist. This is to help you learn what all is in, what to look for in good research or a good research article. So you will use the checklist, which is under course resources, and it's listed as selecting a research article. The checklist will ask you for an article with inferential statistics. No worries if you have not had statistics yet. Your information and textbook under Great Links of Understanding under course resources, or your textbook, is where you will find information on inferential statistics. The checklist will also ask you for demographics. Let's talk about demographics. How would you describe our community in this course? Well, you could talk about percentages of male, female, other, years of practice, age, ethnicity, excuse me, whatever you want to use to describe a population being studied. That's demographics. So review the checklist. Think about what subject you want to learn more about in your practice. Contact the RSU library through institutional resources if you're having difficulty finding an article. Once you've located your article, upload your checklist under week 3, and your article is a separate upload. Once your article meets the criteria and it's something that you want to learn more about, you submit that information under your separate upload box for week 3. Do not put this off. For every time you have an inappropriate article, for instance, no inferential statistics or demographics in the article, you lose 5 points. So, there are more detailed instructions under the assignment itself. That's it for the week. Hopefully you have already started CITI, City, or maybe you have watched The Women of Summer. Due dates can creep up on you quicker than you think. Goodbye.